"My love," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, as though afraid that speaking too loudly would shatter what little remained of them. "I cannot watch you suffer any longer." Adedala stiffened, his tired eyes searching hers, a flicker of dread settling in his chest. "What are you saying?" he asked, his voice hushed, cautious, as if he already feared the answer. Olashewa swallowed the lump rising in her throat. Every word she was about to speak felt like a dagger, cutting her from the inside out. "Take another wife." She forced the words out, though they tasted like ash in her mouth. "Give your family a child. Silence their insults. Let them know it is not your fault." The moment the words left her lips, a cold hush settled over the room. Adedala's hands went rigid in hers. His entire body tensed, his breath caught in his throat. His face darkened, not with anger, but with a pain so deep, it looked as if her words had struck him like a physical blow. "Olashewa." His voice was hoarse, filled with disbelief. "Have you lost your mind? How can you ask this of me?" Olashewa felt her chest tighten, but she held his gaze, refusing to let the tears fall. "I ask because I love you, Adedala," she whispered. "I ask because I do not want you to be cursed by the weight of my emptiness." Adedala wrenched his hands from hers, standing abruptly. He ran a shaking hand over his face, pacing the small room as if trying to outrun the pain clawing at his soul. "Cursed?" he echoed, his voice rising. "Is that what you think? That you are a curse to me?" She did not answer, but her silence was enough. "You are my wife, Olashewa," he shouted, the anguish spilling out of him. "The only woman I have ever loved. Do you think I can replace you like a broken pot? Do you think my heart is so fickle?" Olashewa inhaled sharply, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, trying to steady herself. "This is bigger than love, Adedala," she said, her voice breaking. "This is about your legacy, your honor. If I cannot give you a child, should I stand by and watch them tear you apart?" Adedala turned to her then, his eyes wild with emotion. "And what of me? Should I stand by and watch you destroy yourself for the sake of people who do not care about us?" A tear slipped down her cheek, but she quickly wiped it away. "I only want to free you from this burden," she whispered. Adedala knelt before her, gripping her shoulders, his voice raw with desperation. "You are not a burden, Olashewa." But at that moment, with the weight of the world pressing down on them, she wasn't sure if either of them truly believed it. Tears welled in her eyes, shimmering under the dim light, but she refused to let them fall. She had shed enough already, silent, lonely tears in the dead of night when Adedala lay asleep beside her, oblivious to the storm raging in her heart. Now she needed to be strong. "Because I love you, Adedala," she whispered, her voice steadier than she felt. "Because I cannot bear to see you torn between me and your family. They will never stop until you do this." She clasped her trembling hands in her lap, trying to steady the pounding in her chest. Every word felt like she was carving a piece of herself away, offering it up as a sacrifice. But wasn't that what love was? Giving even when it hurt. Adedala's hands curled into fists at his sides, his whole body rigid with defiance. He shook his head violently, his voice rough with emotion. "No, I will never betray you like that. You are my wife, my only wife." The fire in his voice should have comforted her, but instead, it only deepened her sorrow. She wished she could believe his love alone was enough. She wished she could live in the warmth of his devotion, untouched by the cold reality pressing in from all sides. But Olashewa knew the battle was already lost. She saw it in the way his shoulders sagged under the weight of expectation, in the exhaustion lining his once bright eyes. in the way his mother's voice had begun to echo in their home, even when she wasn't there. The whispers of his people had grown louder, more insistent. The quiet pity in the eyes of the elders, the veiled remarks from neighbors, the distant, unspoken disappointment in the faces of his brothers. One by one, they had all chipped away at him, at them. The expectations of tradition were like an unshakable chain, tightening around their love, threatening to strangle it. And the weight of childlessness, oh, how heavy it had become. It sat on her chest, an unbearable pressure, crushing her beneath its invisible hand. No matter how much Adetola loved her, no matter how fiercely he clung to her, could love alone stand against the tide of an entire people? She had her answer. Slowly, she exhaled, the sound almost a sigh of surrender. "You may not betray me, Adetola," she murmured, "but I will not be the reason you lose everything." A crack formed in her voice, but she forced herself to hold his gaze. "I will not watch them tear you apart for my sake. I love you too much for that." Adetola looked at her then, truly looked at her, and for the first time fear flickered in his eyes. Not fear of the world, nor his family, but fear of losing her. Not to another man, not to death, but to something far worse. Despair.
I hope you are enjoying the story. Please, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified anytime I upload new video. Now let's continue the story.
And Olashewa? She had already begun to slip away. Without telling Adetola, she made arrangements. She moved like a ghost through the motions, her heart detached from her body, her soul already grieving what was yet to be lost. She sought out a woman from a distant town, a woman untouched by the whispers of their people, a woman who did not know the depth of the love she was about to trespass upon. Olashewa chose carefully. She picked someone with a gentle face, a soft voice, someone she believed could bear the burden she could not. A woman who would give Adetola the child she never could. A woman who would give his family what they had long desired. But she had not prepared herself for the agony of it. The day the second wife entered their home, Olashewa felt her soul shatter into pieces so small they could never be put back together. She stood at the threshold, watching as the younger woman stepped inside, her eyes filled with hesitant hope, her hands clutching the belongings that would now share space with hers. The scent of unfamiliar oils filled the air, the presence of another shifting the very atmosphere of the home Olashewa had once claimed as her sanctuary. Her mother-in-law beamed with pride, her sisters-in-law clapped their hands in delight, and the village women murmured in approval. They called Olashewa wise, they called her selfless, they called her strong. They did not see how her fingers trembled as she poured water into the new wife's hands for cleansing. They did not see how her knees nearly buckled when she forced herself to smile, when she greeted the woman who would share the man she had once called hers alone. They did not hear the silent scream trapped in her throat. And she endured it all. She endured the stolen glances between Adetola and the woman he had never asked for but now had to embrace. She endured the sound of new laughter filling the home, laughter that was not hers. She endured the knowing looks from the elders, the subtle nods of approval from the men, the murmured prayers of gratitude from his family. She endured it because she had made this choice. Each night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling the emptiness beside her. She had given up her place, handed it over with her own trembling hands. She listened to the quiet sounds of another woman sharing the life that had once belonged only to her. The soft murmur of voices, the rustling of fabric, the whisper of a door closing. And each sound was a dagger. In the daylight, she smiled. She moved through the village like a woman at peace. She answered when called. She laughed when expected. She even took the new wife's hand in hers when the village women praised their unity. But inside, she was dying. Every piece of her was fading, slipping into a silence so deep even she could no longer hear herself. Then fate played its cruelest trick. 6 months after the second wife stepped into their home, Olashewa began to wither under an invisible weight. At first, she dismissed it as exhaustion, the weariness that had become her silent companion, the toll of pretending to be unshaken. But soon, exhaustion turned into something else. Her body ached in ways it never had before. Sleep slipped through her fingers, leaving her restless at night, staring at the thatched ceiling with an emptiness she could not name. Then came the nausea, violent, unrelenting waves that stole her appetite, that left her hunched over in the mornings, clutching her stomach as if trying to contain something foreign within her. Dizziness followed, sudden, overwhelming. She would rise to her feet only to feel the world tilt, her vision blurring as she grasped the nearest surface for support. Her hands trembled as she forced herself through daily tasks, her head pounding with a dull, persistent ache. Then the cravings, strange, unfamiliar longings that made no sense to her. She found herself drawn to foods she had once despised, unable to resist the urge to taste them. Her body felt foreign, as if it no longer belonged to her, as if something unseen had taken root within her and was slowly altering her from the inside. Adetola noticed. First, he thought it was grief, the slow unraveling of the woman he loved. But then he saw the changes, the way her skin seemed to glow despite her fatigue, the way her body had subtly begun to soften, the way she recoiled at certain smells. Fear gripped him. He had already lost Olashewa in so many ways. Lost the warmth of their love, lost the closeness they once shared, lost the quiet moments that had once made their home feel full. Now he feared he was losing her completely. He begged her to go to the hospital. She resisted at first, unwilling to burden him further. But when she collapsed one evening, her body too weak to hold itself up, he did not wait for her permission. He carried her in his arms, his heart pounding as he rushed her to the clinic, his mind racing with the worst possibilities. As she lay on the examination table, he could not sit still. He paced the small waiting area, his hands clenched into fists, his breath shallow with worry. Was this the price of his family's happiness? Was this what Olashewa had to endure for them to call him a man? He had wanted to fight for her, but she had made the choice for him. And now she was slipping away. He could not bear it. Then the midwife stepped out, her expression unreadable. Adetola froze, his heart hammering against his ribs as he braced himself for the worst. But the words that left her lips were ones he had never expected to hear. "Congratulations," she said. "She is pregnant." For a moment, the world stood still. Pregnant.
I hope you are enjoying the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, so that you will be notified anytime I upload new video. Now let's continue the story.
The word echoed in his mind, foreign and unbelievable. Pregnant? His knees nearly gave out beneath him. His lips parted, but no words came. He could only stare at the midwife, his mind struggling to accept the truth of what she had just said. After years of waiting, after pain and sacrifice, after bringing another woman into their home, Olashewa was pregnant. The shock rippled through the household, through the town, through the very air they breathed. The same people who had pitted Olashewa, who had shaken their heads at her misfortune, who had called her barren behind closed doors, now whispered in astonishment. Some called it fate, others called it divine irony, but no one could deny the weight of the moment. The second wife, the woman who had been brought in to fix what was supposedly broken, remained untouched by pregnancy. Month after month, she waited, hoping to conceive, to cement her place in the home. Yet it was Olashewa, the woman who had been cast aside, the woman who had given up everything, who carried the air. Tongues wagged. Neighbors stole glances at her, some in awe, some in envy, some in shame for ever doubting her. The very people who once spoke of her in hushed, pitying tones now struggled to reconcile their words with the reality before them. But Olashewa had no time for their whispers. She had no space in her heart for the judgments that had long weighed her down. She was too busy feeling the life growing inside her. For 9 months, she carried her son with a mixture of joy and fear, of gratitude and disbelief. She woke up in the middle of the night just to place her hands on her swollen belly, to feel the little kicks that reminded her this was real, that she, the woman who had been written off, was about to bring forth a child of her own. Adetola hovered over her, his hands always reaching for hers, his eyes filled with an emotion she had not seen in years. He had loved her even in the depths of their suffering, but now, he looked at her as if she was the very air he breathed. Then, at the dawn of a quiet morning, after hours of pain, after sweat and tears and the overwhelming struggle of labor, Olashewa heard the sound that changed everything. A cry, loud, piercing, powerful, the cry of her child. The midwife placed him in her arms, his tiny body warm against her skin, his fists curled as if already ready to fight against the world that had once doubted his existence. Tears streamed down her face, unchecked, unrestrained. She traced the delicate features of his face, his soft cheeks, the perfect curve of his lips. "My son," she whispered, pressing a trembling kiss to his forehead. "My miracle." And in that moment, all the pain, all the years of sorrow, all the whispers of doubt, none of it mattered. She had won. The whispers in the village transformed into songs of wonder. Where there was once mockery, there was now admiration. Where there was once pity, there was now reverence. The scorn in her parents' eyes disappeared, replaced by something Olashewa had longed to see all her life: pride. They swallowed their judgments, the bitter words they had once spoken in frustration, and instead, they sang her praises. 2 years later, fate smiled upon her once more. Olashewa conceived again, and this time, she bore twins, 2 healthy, beautiful boys with cries as strong as their mother's spirit. The celebration shook the town. People marveled at the workings of destiny, at how life had turned the tables. The woman who was once pitted, the wife who had once sacrificed her own joy, now sat on a throne of blessings. "She is favored," they said. "The woman who was once barren now overflows with children." But not everyone rejoiced. The second wife stood in the shadows, watching, waiting. For nearly 4 years, she had endured, praying, hoping, believing that her own time would come, that the womb that had remained stubbornly silent would one day open, and she, too, would know the joy of motherhood. But the days stretched into months, the months into years, and still nothing. The shame that once clung to Olashewa now wrapped itself around her instead. The same whispers that had haunted Olashewa now followed her wherever she went. She was brought in to bear children, yet she has none. Perhaps she is the barren one. She should leave before shame consumes her. She could not bear it any longer. One evening, without a word, without a farewell, she packed her belongings. She did not look back at the house where she had once dreamed of a future, nor at the man she had once hoped would give her a family. She left the marriage in silence, disappearing into the same obscurity from which she had come. And Olashewa? She sat by the window that night, cradling one of her twin boys in her arms, staring out into the vast darkness. She felt no victory, no gloating, no satisfaction at the turn of fate, only a deep, quiet understanding of life's strange, unforgiving ways. And just like that, Olashewa's joy returned, not in an overwhelming flood, but in quiet ripples that spread through every corner of her soul. The pain, the sacrifice, the unbearable heartache. It had all led to this moment, to this miracle, to this life she had almost given up on. She sat on the veranda, watching her sons chase one another across the courtyard, their laughter ringing through the air like a melody she had waited a lifetime to hear. The golden evening sun cast a warm glow over them, and for the first time in years, she felt something she had once believed was lost forever. Peace. It was not just the absence of suffering, but the presence of something more profound. A deep, unshakable contentment that settled in her chest, filling every hollow space left behind by years of sorrow. Adela stood beside her, silent but present, the strength she had leaned on even when she thought she had nothing left to give. Slowly, he reached for her, slipping his fingers into hers. His touch was warm, familiar, steady, like the roots of a tree that had weathered every storm but still stood strong. She turned to him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. But these were not the tears of pain or longing she had once cried into her pillow at night. These were different. These were the tears of a woman who had fought battles within herself and emerged whole. "We made it," she whispered, the words trembling on her lips. Adela did not answer immediately. He simply lifted a hand and cupped her face, pressing a lingering kiss to her forehead. Promise, a reassurance, a testament to everything they had endured and everything they had overcome. "We did," he murmured against her skin. And just like that, the world that had once condemned them, mocked them, pitted them, now sang of their love, their endurance, and their unyielding faith. From today's story, we can deduce that, in today's fast-paced world, where instant gratification is the norm, Olashewa's story reminds us that some blessings require time. Many people struggle with delays, whether in career growth, marriage, or having children, and feel pressured by society's expectations. However, just like Olashewa, the things we desire the most often come when we least expect them. Life teaches us that delays are not denials. Sometimes, they are divine setups for something greater than we imagined. True strength lies in enduring the waiting season without losing faith. Another thing is that Olashewa's pain was magnified not just by her childlessness but by how society viewed her because of it. In today's world, the pressure to conform to societal expectations is stronger than ever. Whether it's achieving career success, getting married at a certain age, or living up to social media standards of perfection. But Olashewa's story teaches us that self-worth is not defined by external validation. You are not a failure because you don't fit into society's timeline. True peace comes when you embrace your own journey, knowing that your value is not tied to what others think of you. Moreover, in modern relationships, many people walk away at the first sign of difficulty. Olashewa and Adela's love, however, endured humiliation, pressure, and even the painful decision of bringing another woman into their home. Yet, in the end, their love triumphed. This speaks to relationships today. Real love is not about perfection or ease, but about standing together when everything falls apart. Many marriages and relationships fail today because people are not willing to endure the storms. But just like Olashewa and Adela, those who hold on through the darkest times often find that their love, once tested, becomes unbreakable. Olashewa's story is a testament to the fact that patience, self-worth, and love built on commitment will always withstand the trials of life.
Thanks for watching today's story. I believe you enjoyed every bit of it all. Now I want you to do me one favor, subscribe to this channel, like and turn on the notification bell if you have not done so that whenever I release my next video, you will be notified immediately. See you soon.